I didn't have a bar mitzvah. I didn't want one. I wanted to be Tarzan when I grew up. I wanted to be free. Tarzan never had a bar mitzvah. And as I got older, I started to feel that maybe something was missing in my own life. Maybe it was religion. I did envy that kind of built-in community that religious people have. And I often felt lost and confused and often not comfortable in my own skin, which has since been diagnosed as some symptoms of my mood disorder. But back in 1989, I decided to go to Marrakesh, Morocco, in search of something. Myself, Jews, non-European Jews, okay? Not Lubavitchers. Okay, there's nothing wrong with Lubavitchers, they're okay, but they're so common. They're everywhere in Detroit, they're everywhere in Chicago, they're everywhere in New York. If Jews were birds, they would be sparrows. I wanted to meet the Jews in the Medina because I felt they were part of a mystical lineage. I had historical research to back this up that made no sense. And I wandered around the Medina. The Medina is a maze, and a lot of the streets don't have signs. And Morocco is a tolerant Muslim country, but I didn't feel comfortable just going up to strangers going, "Where are the Jews?" So I just wandered around the Medina kind of randomly hoping something Jewish would jump out at me, but no. So I referred to my tourist map, and there was a synagogue in the new city. So I went there, and Jews! And I told them I was lost, spiritually lost. And the rabbi there wanted absolutely nothing to do with this bohemian backpacking slob, but a really nice guy named Jackie thought that since Passover was starting, I should have access to the services. I should be able to attend services. So he loaned me a suit, which was 5 sizes too big on me, and green, like old armchair green, and corduroy, like really fat corduroy, and huge clown size wingtip shoes, and I got to supply my own funny straw hat. And I went to the temple, and I actually don't really know how to pray. I know one prayer, but it was a Sephardic ceremony. It was a Sephardic service, and the tunes are all different than the European service. I don't know if you know anything. So I knew the Shema, but when it came around, I didn't recognize it because it wasn't the right tune. So I just did what I always do when I go to synagogue, which is kind of rock back and forth and mumble and make noises like. And afterwards, I had conversations with members of the congregation, and I ended up kind of coming to an agreement with a 10-year-old boy that I would meet him in Casablanca, which is the Cleveland or El Segundo of Morocco. And I would go to yeshiva there. I was going to have to start from scratch. I was going to have to learn the Aleph Beit. I was going to have to just learn everything with the kids there. And and guess what? They were Lubavitchers. Yeah, they were Sephardic Lubavitchers, but still, I traveled all the way to North Africa to see the sparrows of Judaism. And it was Passover, and I don't honor dietary laws. So I ate tagine and frit, and I got really sick, like fevery sick, like hallucinatory sick, like pukey, squirty, fevery, leave your body sick. I had many out-of-body sick body experiences the whole week of Passover. I had an out-of-body experience that turned into an out-of-body experience dream, where I was looking through the eyes of another person. And we were at the top of a spiral staircase, and at the bottom of the spiral staircase was a ballroom, a huge, opulent ballroom, and a huge crowd of people, and we could hear them whispering, "Tarzan is coming. Tarzan is coming. I heard Tarzan is coming. Is Tarzan really coming?" And as I'm coming down the stairs, we're passing pillars. Pillars are going by my POV because I'm not really there. I'm just looking out through the eyes of the person. But as the pillars go by my POV, each time I get a little more into the body of this other person. I slowly become integrated into that person, and by the time I get to the bottom of the stairway, I am that person. I am Tarzan, and I have arrived at the party. And maybe it was the reception for my bar mitzvah. I don't know, but I woke up from the dream, and I was recovered from the fever, and I knew the dream was trying to tell me something. It was trying to tell me that I wasn't being true to myself. I was setting myself up for a physical situation that was going to be very uncomfortable. It was very wrong, and I was not going to go to Casablanca, the El Segundo by the Atlantic, and I was not going to meet the little Lubavitcher at the yeshiva. And I felt kind of bad about this. I didn't feel good. I felt it was a little bit cowardly, but I knew it was what I had to do. So I went to the shul. Shul is a synagogue. And I have no idea if you know what I'm saying when I say Ashkenazi or Sephardic. I just went ahead and said, I had no bar mitzvah. For all you know, I'm not even Jewish. That would explain it. Certainly would explain why Tarzan had no bar mitzvah. So I went back to the shul, which is a synagogue, and all the Lubavitchers were speaking to each other in Arabic out on the patio, and we were having some kind of discussion about maybe a point of Talmud or where the best couscous is. And there was a lone figure at one of the outdoor tables, a lone, very solitary, very intense, very swarthy figure, gaunt. Did I say gaunt? He's gaunt. And he was kind of glowering from one speaker to the other. He was totally silent, and he had a Muslim skull cap on, and I said, there is one of the Jews from Medina. Well, his loss, because I just gave up my search. I don't care. I'm just going to be who I am, however stupid an idea that is. And I apologized to the little Lubavitcher that I wasn't going to join him, and we went in to pray, and Jackie took me over to the Jew from Medina. And he said, you should pray with this man. He is from Philadelphia. His name's Ira Glick. And me and Ira palled around a little after that, and we went on a camping trip together. He was an unaffiliated Orthodox. He was not Lubavitch, but he only came to that synagogue because there were no other services for Passover in the entire city of Marrakesh. Go figure. So we climbed up a chain of waterfalls. He's an amazing camper. He carried 2 sets of camping cookware, one for meat and one for milk, and he carried a suit over his shoulder, a suit in a garment bag, a suit that fit him, a suit that was not green corduroy, and he told me about his life as a lens grinder in Philadelphia and in Israel, and I told him about being a playwright in Chicago, and I told him about my play about the radical lesbian poet that was the engine of a spaceship that ran on Poetic Drive, and about the playwright, there's one about the playwright Sam Shepard, who was the spawn of Yog-Sothoth and the elder gods of Cthulhu. And he looked at me, and he asked me, what were you thinking? You can't be with those people aren't going to understand you. Of course you're not going to yeshiva. That's crazy. You just go be with your friends in Chicago. You know, Jews, there have been all kinds of Jews all throughout history. There's no right way to be a Jew. You just stay away from the Lubavitchers. And I said, thank you. Thank you. I was immensely relieved. I didn't realize what I had been carrying around that whole time. I had a moment of catharsis. I was just, only Nixon could go to China. Only Captain Kirk could go to the peace talks with the Klingon Empire. And only Ira Glick could release me from my self-imposed obligation to be a religious Jew. And he did. And so I went back to Chicago and I wrote a play about all my experiences in Morocco. It was called Ugly's First World. It was about Morocco and T.S. Eliot and Aleister Crowley and singing zombies and Jane Bowles. And it was produced by my theater company, Theater Oobleck. And 10 years later, it was remounted here at the Actors Gang back when Mark Seldes was managing it and directed by my friend Bill Cusack, and I loved it, and I felt very happy. And you know, to this day, I often feel confused. I feel uncomfortable in my own skin. But when I go to a new city and there's an art scene there, or a performance scene, or a music scene, I know where to find my people.